Yeah, hello everyone. Today we're gonna be talking about managing permission in Azure database. First and foremost, we're gonna create a database and a server. So we're gonna create a server and we're gonna create a database inside the server. So let's create a database. Database. Create a database. So let's create a database. So we're gonna create a database and we're gonna create some users as well. So let's create this database on Active Directory as on the resource group. Then query database, query, let's query prod. Right. So let's create a server. Let's call this server okay. So we created on East US. So let's set the user to server login, SQL admin, and the password. Make sure you use a password that you can remember. So that's that. Then let's check it out. Okay, just let the rest at default. So that's good. For a practice purpose, let's just leave the rest as the default. So let's click on review and create. It's creating. So let's wait for it. Let's wait for it to get created. So the database was created successfully with a server, right? So let's go inside it. This is a database. So let's go inside the server. Let's get inside the server, then let's go and give permission to the networking. So we can use our current IP address, right? So let's go in here. Here, give it permission, our current IP, allow, and save. Okay, while this one is doing this, let's go and create Active Directory. Okay, let's create a user on Active Directory. Let's create a new user. Let's call this. I call it Prince. Displays be the same thing in Prince, right? So let's put a password. You have to be a password that you can remember. So let's just click rate. Let's refresh it. Okay, it's here, right? Let's create another user. For this one, sure. Display name, be sure. So let's put a password in there. Make sure you use a password that you can remember as well. So let's just go ahead and create. Great. Okay, let's give it time. Look at the user. Okay, it's here now, right? So let's log in with our server that we created. The server that we created. Let's go to the server, the server that we created, right? So let's log into this server using SQL Server Authentication. So let's log into it. Log into the server. SQL, and let's put the password. Let's log in. So we're in here, we are inside the server right now, right? So now we want to create some permission into the Azure databases. And these are the tasks you receive on a daily basis, right? We are working on supporting databases in Azure, and you have to grant people permission, right? Remember, you have application owner, and they have to have access to the databases, right? And you need to grant them permission, right? You know, we have two type of authentication. So we have SQL Server Authentication and we have window authentication, right? So that's why we first started with SQL Server Authentication. And I want you to know that if you're granting, you want to create a login, right? In Azure, you cannot create a login using SQL. So let's try now, like create a login. See what it's going to bring out. We brought out a script. So this is where you're going to create our login. So let's create our login here now. And if you want to create a login, anything you see this greater than, anytime you see this greater than, and you see this less than, it means you have to take all of them, you have to take them out and put the login name you want to create, you have to put it in there. Like this now, let's create a login for, just call it login, and the password, remember what I say, greater than a log, less than this, the bracket, you have to just take it out, right? Take this out, then you put the password, you want to put it there. Let's use password 1 right here, right? So you have to run it against master database. You have to run this against master database. So let's run it. So it was successful, right? So let's come in here. Let's refresh this. Refresh, right? You see the login and the password that we just created. As you can see right there, is there. Login is created, right? As you can see. So when someone just requests, right, you just have to just go in there, create a login and create a password and give it to the person. But when you do that and the person log into it, that person will not be able to get into the database here, because in Azure, database by default are contained database, meaning that if you create a login for somebody, right, and the person only log in, the person can only log in but cannot have access to the database that's inside the that server. Not until you go and give permission to that database, right? Let's do this now. We created the login, right? So now let's go and associate, like map that login to a user. So we come to this database that we created right here, right? Then we come to this, come to the security, right? So now let's create, you see there's no user right here. So now let's create a user right here. Right click, Click new, right? So now this is the place we're gonna create the user. So we want to specify the username that I want to use right here, right? So let's create a user right here. Let's go ahead and create a user. Remember what I said, this greater than and less than, you have to take it out, right? So let's create a user. So let's call our user the same name as we call the login. Okay, then let's create we create a user, right? For the login, remember the login that we created here. The login that we created here is this, the same thing. You have to copy this login. We created this login, right? So you put the login here, right? So let's make it DBO. Let's make it DBO. Let's take all this out, right? Let's take this out. So we're going to run it against database that we created. Okay, let's do that. Run this script, right? And run it against database. It was successful. Now let's go ahead and refresh this. You see the user that we just created. This is the user that we just created as it just displayed right there on the screen. So now let's give the database owner the permission. So let's give the database. Now let's give the database owner some permission, right? Right. So let's give it permission. Let's give it Z SP underscore add row member. Let's give it DB owner. DB owner. So what's the user? The user is user tech, right? User tech. So we want to give this user tech. We want to give it owner, right? So let's run it. Successful, right? So now once you give the database user login, it has the database owner permission on that database. Remember, we did not create the owner under the master, right? So when you want to log in, you have to go to the option. So let's log in with this. Let's try to log in. Let's try to log in with that user that we just created. What you have to do now, we're not going to use this SQL Server Authentication straight up. We have to come here, come down here. We have to type the database name. What is the database name? The database name is prod. Come here, take this out, prod. Because you want to log into the database, prod. 1 minute. What's going on? Prod. And showing error, right? What you have to do is one, let's come over here. The user that we created is this, right? Let's copy it. Let's go ahead again. Put the user here. And the password that we created when we're creating that was password word 1, right? So they come to option, then put the prod here. Prod. Then let's see. We are able to connect. Now that user. Let's wait, it's rolling. It's rolling. Let it finish. Still rolling. Rolling. Let's wait for it. Let's wait for it. So we are able to log in. You see the username that we created is created in user and the login. You see this is a login. The login is user tech, right? So there's a database in here, right? So the database, let's go into the security user. You see the user there, right? You see this is all you're gonna see, the difference. And for you to know which server do you log into, right? You have to come down, you come to down of the script that you run. Under it, you see usertech.database.window, right? So that means you are into the one that you just created. So this is how you give a permission at work, and you have to educate whoever you want to give the user that you created to, the user and the login that you created to, that anytime they want to log in, they have to go to the to log in and go to the option, the option here to put the database name in there. That is the way to log into that. So the next thing we want to do now is let's give a permission to Active Directory. So you have to go to I'll have to go to the Active Directory that we created or the user that we created, right? So now I want to go ahead and use one of the login that we created. We want to use it in here and give it permission. So we're gonna go to one of these login that we created. The login that we created a lot of user right here. Let's come home, Active Directory. These are the user that we created. Active Directory, these are the users. We have these two users, right? So now let's go back to home. So let's go to the server. This is server. We go to server level. Then we want to make one of the user that we created. We want to make one of them the admin. Okay, let's see. Set admin. Come to user that we created. You come over here, you see users, right? So let's select one of these name as our admin. Let's select this Prince as our admin. So let's click select. Let's click save. Saving. Okay. Prince has been saved. So let's go back to our Active Directory. Our Active Directory, right? So let's go to user or the users. Prince that we just gave the admin permission. So now let's copy this Prince, right? So now let's go back to our SSMS. So let's come in here and connect. Here, server name, take it out. Let's put this the Prince, right? So we want to log in now. We're not going to log in as SQL Server Authentication. We are going to log in as Active Directory Universal with MFA, right? So the username, oh, sorry, the server that we used before, sorry. Then we come here, you come here, put it, log in with this, and you have to put the user, put the Prince here, right? Let's click connect. Yeah, connect give us, it has also put the password that we use when we were creating the users at then. So we want to put the password here, login. So it has to put the current user again and the new password. So the new password. Confirm. Let's log in. Okay, ask me later. Okay, the question here is this. You know, you will be thinking that why it is able to log in without giving any permission. The reason is because we already said this user as admin, right? So setting anybody as admin, or you set a group as admin, you don't need to go through all those permissions. This have access to the database. This is the database, have access to everything over there, right? So what you have to do right now is after we log in, right? We log in, now we need to go, we just need to give some permission. We need to go to permission and we have to run this permission against one of the users that we created. So let's come here. Let's do this. These are we come over here, open this, right? You see the login right here under the security, that login. Then we want to create. So come to security, we come to login. So let's go to the logins. So the login that here, because this is already active, we set it up as this admin, right? That's why it inheritates this username that we created before, right? So let's go ahead and create login. We want to create a login under the Active Directory now, right? So let's create a login. So we want to create a login under Active Directory. So let's create a login now. Come over here. Let's close this. Come here. There's a script here. There's a script here that we're going to use. Create Azure Active Directory user for Azure SQL database. So this is a script we're gonna use now. So let's create a login. Let's go ahead and create a login. So click here like this, new, right? So let's create login for, let's go to our user that we created. The second user here that we created, let's go to the users. Let's go back one more time. This user, be sure. Let's go come to this, be sure. Let's copy this. Copy this, be sure, right? So let's come back here. We want to create a login for this. Then it's here like this. Okay. From external provider, right? So let's run this script against master. Let's run this script now. It's created successfully, right? That is created successfully. The next thing we're gonna so the login has been created. Let's refresh this. Refresh it. You see the login has been created. Be sure, right? So now let's create a user for this login that we just created. So let's do like this. For login, let's create a user in the database, right? So create user You want to create a user. Be sure, don't be sure, right? Okay. Okay, user be sure. From login. From login, got the same name, right? Got the same name. So we want to create a user from this login. So let's run it. Okay. Let's refresh it. Okay. Look at this database right here. So now we want to run it again against the database. That's the same script that we run now. We want to run it against this database right here. You know, we run it against master, right? So now let's run the same script against. Okay, let's do this. Maybe it is. Run the script against database. So let's take this script. Let's bring it down, right? So let's run it against database. Database run, right? So let's run it against database. Okay, so let's go to this route. User Bisha is there now, right? Bisha is there as the user. So let's now use this user. Let's use this user to log in. Know the user the user is Bisha, right? Bisha. Come on. Bisha. Let's copy this name. Bisha right here, right? Let's log in. Okay. Let's log in as Bisha. And with this universal with MFA, right? Connect. Let's put the same password that we use when we're creating the user at 10. Put it there. Okay, also password again. They want us to change the password. And let's put new password. New password. Okay. Yes. Try to log in now. Ask me later. We are able to log in now, right? Now that we are able to log in, remember, be sure we didn't set Bishar as admin, right? We just went inside the admin to create a user and create a user and we created a login, right? So this now that we created right now, we haven't give it any permission. No permission in it. No permission at all, right? Now, because there's no permission, we didn't give it permission, right? We don't have any access to anything here. So what we have to do now is we want to try to give it permission on maybe data owner or data writer or data reader, right? So how are we going to do that? Let's go ahead and do this. We we're gonna go ahead and write this script. We're gonna write this script against the database. So let's type exec sp underscore add row member. And DB underscore, that put data reader, right? Then comma, and then the login. I created this login. I'm gonna use this login here now. Come down, let's go. So we're gonna run this, you get the database, get that database, right? So let's run it. So we just grant this user, we just grant the user data reader. So if you want to do the same thing, like you want to give it like data writer or owner, DB owner, that is the same way you are gonna change it. You can as well just copy that script like that, copy it and paste it here and just change this around. DB data, the data owner. Right? And just script this, it will go as well. So that's how to give me data owner, data writer, and data reader. That's how to give that permission. And there's a lot of permission you can give as well. Like want to grant execute, like execute permission, right? So we can just grant execute to, we have to do is to who this user on that database, on that database that was there. Okay, user, then you paste this here, right? So, and you have to paste it there, then close it, right? Then run it. That is when you want to grant execute. And if you want to grant select, all you have to do is copy, same thing, just come down, paste it, and just put grant select. So that login and user that you created, just execute it, go through, right? That is how to grant all those permissions one after the other, right? So after this, what you have to do next, and you can as well use all this permission that is here, you can as well use it against SQL Server Authentication. And we're using this now against Active Directory, right? So you can as well use it against SQL Server Authentication. Now, the next thing we want to do now is, can somebody that's inside a group be able to log in? So let's try that. Let's try to go inside let's try to create, let's create this. Let's create more user. Let's create more user, right? Let's create a user. Let's call this user, just call it Kenny. And the login name too should be Kenny, right? So now let's see, let's password, right? So let's just create it. Okay. From it's gonna come. Okay, Ken is here. Let's create another user. Let's call this one ratios. Call this ratios, right? So let's put a password there. Right? Let's create it. Okay. Now let's go and create a group. Right? Go back. Let's create a group. Let's create a group. Okay. Let's call the group DBA. Right? So let's create a group. Let's refresh this. The group has been created, right? Good. So let's go to Active Directory right here. This is a group. Let's click on the group. Refresh. Refresh. Okay, here's a group. Okay, let's put a member inside the group. Click on the member, right? Let's add a member. Member, so user here. Let's add all those things, all of them. Let's add them as a member. Let them add them. Let them be member of the DBAs. Okay, let's refresh this. Okay, yeah, inside the member of the group called DBAs, right? Now, let's do this. Let's go inside our server. Is our server right here, right? Is our server. Okay, let's go to this Azure Active Directory. All right, let's set admin. Set admin, right? So let's go to group. This is a group, right? DBA group. Let's select it. Let's save it. Let it go through. Okay, it went through now, right? Okay, you see all the user that we created here. See, it's user, Active Directory, users. All these users right here, because we put them inside a group and we set the group as acting admin, right? So all these group are automatically admin. Okay, let's give an example. Now, let's log into this. See this user. And let's copy this. All right. So let's go inside our SSMS. So let's try to connect. Let's connect. Okay. As this. Right. So let's put the name there. And let's connect. Connect right here. And let's put the password that we use when we're creating the user. Okay. Okay, let's change the password. New one. Okay. So let's log in. Okay. Boom. You see, we are able to log in as this Precious. You know why? Because this Precious is part of our admin. So if you go ahead now, right? Let's play around. Let's play around. Let's go to user. Let's create a new user. Create a new user here. Let's call this one. Let's call this one Mama. So come here, boy, Mama, right? So let's put the password here and see. Right? So let's create. Let's create. I want to show something for you to really understand it better. You see, but you know, this Mama is not part of the admin, right? Okay, let's copy this, right? So let's go to our SSMS. Let's go to our SSMS, login. Okay, let's put that Mama user information here. You see, so let's connect. Yeah, so the password. Okay. Let's see the miracle there. Okay. 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 What you say? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know so that we use it too much time. Okay. Okay. Come on. Don't do this to me. Okay. Okay. You see, it is giving error. You know why is it giving us error? Because this user that we created is not part of admin. This user that we created, this user right here, this Mama, right, is not part of admin. So there's no how the user can log in. So this brings us to the end of this practice. If there's any thing you want me to talk about, any topic, or you have any question, please don't forget to make a comment below. And if there's anything at all you think I've not touched and you want me to touch, and you have any difficulty in one or two things, you can put a comment below, then I can do the video about it. Please don't forget to click like, and subscribe. Once again, this is Yunusa. Thank you. More of it is still coming, okay? Thank you so much. Don't forget to click like and subscribe. Thank you.